is the Gray Man, and where does he live? Do orcas exist in reality? What mysteries can satellite images solve? What was discovered on Loch Ness Lake with the help of sonar? Watch this right now. In this episode, you'll see the most dreadful creatures caught on camera. And we'll start with a rather ambiguous photo I found on the internet. If we believe the story from its author, the shot was taken during an expedition to the Egyptian pyramids. At some point, when people entered a yet unexplored tunnel, they heard a strange sound, and then this horrible creature appeared in front of them. Yes, I agree, it all sounds, to put it mildly, not particularly convincing. On the other hand, the frame has been repeatedly checked by experts, and no traces of Photoshop were noticed on it. What do you think? Can such monsters dwell in pyramids to this day? Or is it nothing more than a deception and a desire to attract attention? Write in the comments. Well, while you write, I'll tell you about another creature, also from Egypt. But this time it's definitely real. This orc was found on one of the local beaches at high tide. People speculated that it could have been the cub of some mystical monster or a regular mutated marina. The girl who first came across the remains noticed that the creature had two sets of jaws, one inside the other. Of course, no one would touch such an unknown creature, and people just waited for the arrival of specialists. They, in turn, cordoned off the area, took samples from the so-called water orc, and took his body with them. Unfortunately, no further information regarding the find has been released. If you ask me, I think it's definitely not a mutant. The amazing finds from Egypt don't end there. Next up, we have an eyeless creature spotted underwater. A couple of centuries ago, such a story would have made a whole sinister mystery that would have lived on for a couple of centuries. But fortunately, today, almost all travelers are armed with cameras. The image of the unknown object was promptly posted on the web, with hundreds of experts from around the world that began to put forward their own theories regarding the essence of the monster. As you can see, the creature had no eyes, ears, and mouth, and it resembled a rubber tube with a pointed end, but it moved in the water. The most popular versions said that it could be a new kind of worm, an alien, or even a unique underwater plant. The most plausible one says that the monster belonged to jellyfish, or more accurately, jellyfish tentacles. I'll explain by the example of people. Scientists have repeatedly conducted tests and determined that most likely, after beheading, a person is still conscious for some time. He sees what's happening around him, understands speech, and can even, for example, blink his eyes. So the same could apply to jellyfish. This one may have been eaten by a turtle or a large fish, and one of the tentacles survived and continued to furrow the waters. So it moved, but at the same time it had no eyes, mouth, or other vital elements. Now, this next shot wasn't taken in Egypt. It was taken by one of Google's satellites that captured an image near the Antarctic island. First, we see a boat full of people all looking at the same place. It may seem like a coincidence, or they just saw a rare creature there. Well, how can I put it? They did see someone, and someone really rare. So rare that no one in the world had ever seen it before. Under the water, just a few feet away from the boat, there was a gigantic and horrible monster, unlike any creature known to man. Now, this is absolutely, definitely not a mutant or a rare species. It's definitely something alien, something that our minds and knowledge have not yet reached. Naturally, as soon as the frame hit the web, it became massively discussed in all walks of life. Expeditions to the area began. Unfortunately, despite the fact that people made a lot of efforts, they didn't find an alien. Who do you think it could be, and what does it want? And is there any chance of it reappearing? It's just that for some reason, many people think it was just an illusion. Speaking of illusions, the creature from our next story is also often referred to as a visual effect that's achieved under certain conditions. But I'll tell you about that later. Let's start with the main photo that started the whole fuss. In the shot posted on the web, a huge animate object that resembled a human was seen. He stood somewhere in the distance, behind the fog, and it was unreal to see him. Nevertheless, the mysterious creature drove all the tourists into terror and forced them to get away from the mountain as soon as possible. Oh yes, I forgot to tell you, the action took place on Ben Macdui Mountain. That's in Aberdeenshire, northern Scotland. It is, by the way, the second highest mountain in Scotland and the British Isles. The height of the peak is 4,294 feet above sea level. It's logical to assume that in this place there's no shortage of tourists, and in theory, such meetings with mysterious men should happen often. You know, they do. There are really a lot of pictures of this shadow on the web. So why has no one managed to capture this gray man so far? The name Gray Man, by the way, was given to this monster from Scottish Celtic folklore. The creature is described as an extremely tall humanoid figure covered in short gray hair, or as an invisible being that causes a sense of terror in people who climb to the top. There's no evidence that the monster is real, only a few disputed reports of alleged sightings and a few photos of unusual footprints. Of course, if it came to publication in newspapers or books, the story, by definition, has quite a few adherents. On the other hand, modern scientists believe that this is not a person at all, but usual hallucinations. The fact is, this mountain is quite large. Overcoming the routes through it is a very labor-intensive occupation. During the time at the top, people's consciousness and perhaps perception of reality changes. Hence the feeling that people are seeing a ghost. But on the other hand, the pictures don't lie. I mean, the camera couldn't just take a picture and change its consciousness too. Yes, that's right. That's how the other half of scientists who claim it's all a weather phenomenon came about. Allegedly, the shadow is the person taking the picture, just because of the special refraction of light, fog, and the height of the mountain. What are you doing? That's probably what the hero of our next story thought to himself as he looked directly into the camera lens. The footage taken in the Australian forest shows something resembling a head. Quality of the footage leaves much to be desired, but on the internet, enthusiasts were found who did the work on the video material. After their efforts, the creature became more clearly visible. Moreover, it clearly looks like an alien or some other mystical monster. There's no denying the fact that it could be an ordinary play of light. However, it seems to me that in this case, such an option is inappropriate. The eyes, the mouth, the outline of the face all look too clear. If I were the people living here, I'd organize at least a couple of expeditions and try to explore the forest. They might find this creature again and either discover a new species or get an undeniable proof of the existence of aliens. Menkves. These 5 letters send shivers down the spine and cause uncontrollable panic to anyone who is even slightly familiar with the Khanty-Mansiysk mythology and the Mansi people. For many years, the Menkves have been called man-eating giants and werewolves, who, according to legend, were God's first and extremely unsuccessful attempt to create humans. It's said that the Almighty created the Menkves from the trunks of larch trees. However, after the creation, they ran away to the forest where they still live. Here we smoothly came to the main video, because of which the panic rose in the network. Its author was walking through a snowy forest in the early morning and accidentally noticed something huge and humanoid in front of him. The creature was covered with wool head to toe and immediately felt that someone was looking at him. Mythology experts declared it as one. It was a Menkve. It's the mythical image of the archaic beast that terrified the Mansi that the Menkve was also revered as the master of the forest. It was believed that the harsh forest giant, already not favorable to people, was especially cruel to greedy hunters and loggers. But if he meets a random tourist on his way, he can obviously not expect leniency. In addition to supervising the natural riches of the taiga, the Menkves guarded forest sanctuaries. For example, near some Mansi temples, one could often find pointed wooden sculptures. That's how the Mansi depicted the Menkves and showed them their respect. What do you think? Can these ancient and mighty creatures still live today? Write in the comments. Well, we'll go further because here we're waiting for a no less interesting video. A man was walking along the forest with his dog when suddenly, out of nowhere, a giant wolf appeared in front of them. As big as it could possibly be. I think it was even bigger than a bear. Fortunately for the man and his faithful 4-legged friend, the monster didn't mean any harm and just slightly scared the uninvited guests. However, if his intentions had been more determined and evil, we wouldn't have seen this clip, if you know what I mean. In classic fashion, as soon as the story appeared on the web, it was immediately discussed by anyone who felt like it. The lovers of all paranormal things, scientists, and ordinary citizens also connected. From their words, they also saw someone similar in their woods. Sounds surprising, but almost no one doubted the credibility of the video. People agreed that it was more likely that the man had met a Gevaudan animal. Such a nickname was a wolf-like creature in the distant past. It was a man-eating beast that had been plaguing the entire north of the French county of Gevaudan. In just 3 years that people knew about it, there were more than 250 attacks, 119 of which ended fatally. The extermination of the beast was announced several times, and the debate about its nature did not end even with the cessation of attacks. This story is rightly considered one of the most famous mysteries in all of France. Many peasants claimed that the beast was no one other than a werewolf. After all, it chose only people to attack. It was not interested in sheep, cows, and dogs at all. The monster attacked in a strange way, rising on its hind legs, and knocked a man down with its front legs and then wielded its teeth. In our story, by the way, the wolf also showed no interest in the dog. It felt as if it wanted to reach the man, but the faithful dog wouldn't let him. Coincidence? I don't think so. Sea monster. The next creature, as you may have realized, was found underwater. In Indian River County, Florida, a strange creature was caught on camera that was definitely not a dolphin, manatee, or anything like that. It had huge muscles, just like a bull. It also seemed to move its shoulders more like a bear swimming underwater than like any underwater creature. When the video was uploaded to the internet, the comments on it literally exploded. Everyone wanted to know where exactly the man had filmed this giant. What do you think it could have been? An ordinary manatee? A bear, not like the others? Or someone else unknown to science? I'm secretly leaning towards the latter. Moreover, there are indeed many mysterious creatures that people know nothing about. They're regularly caught not only in the lens of the phone but also on CCTV cameras installed near houses. So the following video came to us directly from Argentina. A CCTV camera installed outside a police officer's house captured a strange, hunched creature running down the street at an incredible speed. The uncontrollable barking of dogs in their stations was proof that this is no addition. As is known, dogs are extremely sensitive to any uninvited guests, so such behavior was not a discovery. A number of people believe that it's the duende, a character from Spanish and Portuguese folklore which was spotted in the street, in many ways similar to gnomes and goblins. Yes, I understand it's hard to believe in such a thing, but do not forget about the reaction of the dogs and the fact that the video has been checked by professionals many times. Not a single trace of editing still could be found. So if not computer graphics and not duende, then Loch Ness Lake mystery. Oh, how many legends and stories go around the Loch Ness Monster, or as it's also called, Nessie. People annually organize dozens and even hundreds of expeditions, and all just to become the first to find the whole body of the legendary creature. The hero of our story went a smarter way. On board a ship engaged in the transportation of tourists, he installed sonar, that is the means of sound detection of underwater objects with the help of acoustic radiation. He analyzed the underwater environment and found something surprising. It turned out that deep underground, at a depth of 620 feet, there is something really huge, something gigantic and moving. The captain of the ship did not make a statement that they found exactly the Loch Ness Monster. However, he said with certainty, someone huge lives at the bottom of the lake, so much that he could not even imagine it. Now, scientists have nothing to do but read coffee grounds and hope that the monster will give away its location and they'll be able to identify it. On the other hand, there are times when knowing the location of a creature or literally holding it in your arms leaves even the most experienced sailors helpless. They simply do not know who it is and what to do with it. In 2019, for example, a girl named Sarah Wasser Alford fished out such a curious creature in Alaska. It looked like a living coral with thin tentacles, or like some kind of alien that was about to possess a person and take over his mind. However, it was still a walk in the park. A little later, when the woman turned the monster over, she discovered it had strange veins, looking like an alien larva. If you remember, this is what the nasty aliens clung to the face of their victims. As you can imagine, no one on the boat had any idea who they were dealing with. What's more, the people were terrified. That's why, after a couple of regular shots, they threw the monster overboard and sailed away from the sin. That's about it. Write in the comments what creature seemed you the most dreadful one. Leave a like and subscribe to the channel.